I wrote here that the victory of the believer depends on his understanding of the finished work of Christ. The victory of the believer, very powerful points to note as we begin tonight, that the victory of the believer is not dependent on sentiments, it's not dependent on some kind of superstitious wishes. The victory of the believer in this kingdom here and now is absolutely dependent on his understanding of the finished work of Christ. I'm not done, but pause and let me explain that statement. Notice I never said the victory of the believer is dependent on the finished work of Christ. No, the victory of the believer is dependent on his understanding of the finished work of Christ. As you will be learning, the finished work of Christ, as potent and as powerful as it is, will continue to remain barren in the life of a believer until activated by superior spiritual understanding. So the victory of the believer depends on his understanding of the finished work of Christ, alongside the dynamics of appropriating the advantage it brings here and now. Alongside the dynamics of appropriating the advantage that that victory has brought here and now. So we're discussing two things already. That number one, the victory of the believer depends on his understanding of the finished work of Christ, but it also depends on his or her ability to understand the dynamics of appropriating the advantage. In truth, there is every kind of advantage you can imagine is captured in the finished work of Christ. But it does not mean that we will come into the experience of it arbitrarily. We must have an understanding of the finished work of Christ, but we must also know the dynamics of appropriating that advantage to our lives here and now. Are we together?